Hi, this is DS Yoxheimer. This is another edition of The Spectre, and this is my ongoing retrospective of the Next Generation Star Trek films. And remember the last Star Trek film I did? It was good. This isn't that one, or good like that one, as I would say. It it the and so to complement First Contact, the makers of Paramount or whatever, they basically made a bland mix of Star Trek tropes and bad character development, and it's very apparent. It has good production values, but it's just such a boring episode of Next Generation. I saw this in theaters as well, and it was just a thorough disappointment. It was not like it wasn't like, yeah, okay, this is cool to watch, but it was just like, total shit. The plot involves a race of ageless beings who live on a planet known as the Baku, and they live in like this agrarian society, very anti-technology, and the planet's metaphasic rings keep them from, aging, or at least until they reach the age of maturity, conveniently enough, so they can at least have adults. And a nefarious plot is uncovered when data malfunctions. Okay, so Data basically reveals that Starfleet and this other alien race, which is basically the Baku, but they didn't. They're not benefiting. They're not on the planet, so they can't benefit from the metaphasic ring. So they're having all these horrible procedures done that make them all stretched out and mummified looking. So anyway, they uncover the fact that they've been observing their society and all that, and basically the underlying purpose was to extricate the powers or properties of the metaphasic rings, and transporting the people from the planet to somewhere else via a holodeck. They discover this whole thing, and it's just the holodeck looks like their little hamlet, their little village they live in. So anyway, so after they retrieve Data, who's malfunctioned and everything, Worf and Picard do, after singing H.H. Pinafore, because that was the last, he was rehearsing a number, I guess, before he left the Enterprise to go on this other mission. So the Baku were upset that the Starfleet was spying on them, but of course Captain Picard and his crew, they were in on this. Only this Admiral Daughtery and this other Rafu, who's he played by? But anyway, I think he's on Homeland, but that's beside the point. So they're trying to like basically they're just trying to get exploit it somehow, even though there's no money in the 21st century. There's this weird big pharma in the 21st century that's trying to get these rings so they can, well, of course you'd want to benefit from it so they can, which in a way though the Baku should share the powers of this ring. I mean, who knows? There's only like 600,000 people on the planet. I mean, there's like billions and billions of people that could benefit. But anyway, that's a sort of discussion for another time, that moral quandary. So anyway, with that, Baku and Picard, or what's her name, and Naj, that's her name, and Picard develop kind of a relationship. People are getting horny and stuff like that, and so that happens. So yeah, it's like the main plot kind of having, kind of action in space, which does happen. There's battles. Seems to take a back seat to these relationships that are developing on the show and the movie. I would say the show because it seems more like the show than it does the actual, a big theatrical release film of Star Trek. So, moving right along, they engage in the insurrection. Picard takes off his, pins and is like, fuck this, man. And gets a bunch of, phaser rifles, and he's gonna go, do battle with the enemy and everybody, and expose the Admiral and all this stuff, Make sure that they don't remove these people from this planet. But, Picard isn't thinking objectively because he's in love with this woman. He's in love with Inij. And really, if he was thinking objectively, maybe perhaps the other side, they weren't so wrong. Maybe at least they could have worked something out where other beings could have benefited from the metaphasic rings and it wouldn't have done as much damage or destroyed their planet or their way of life. But anyway, okay, either side has some have some misgivings with how they're handling this whole situation. But the one thing that's really gross is the medical procedures, the space stretching thing. It's awful. It's really gross. But here it is.